By the time the truth came out, the bodies had already been hidden. One mother was missing, but her son was locked in the bathroom, the floor slick with chemicals, and the house smelling like someone had tried to clean away a crime. One teenage girl told her mother, "I'm on my way," but her cousin had already dumped her body and started pretending he knew nothing. And in Cleveland, a dog stopped at a buried suitcase. Then police found another one. 3 cases, 3 trusted people, and 3 crimes where the darkest part was not just the killing, it was what they did after. Stay with me, because the first case begins with a welfare check that turned into a nightmare inside a mother's own home.
That night, I felt like changed every last one of us.
Longtime and respected member of the Adams County community and retired educator Lana Brown Bradley was dead. But that's not all. It's the way she died.
This was one of those cases that you will never, ever forget in your life. This is the type of case that follows you home.
Deputies were called to this home after her oldest son couldn't reach his mother the previous day. 2 of her other sons lived in the house with her. Her middle son had been working.
As soon as they walked in the house, they could just see where somebody had been cleaning up at it, and they could smell chemicals all throughout the house. Floor was extremely slippery, and the oldest son said that this is just unusual for the youngest son to be cleaning up the house like that.
The youngest son, Zachary Jackson Jr, was found locked in a downstairs bathroom where deputies could hear water slashing.
And the fact that when he opened that bathroom, deputies could see a black substance in the toilet that wasn't described as anything that would come, from your body in that way. They were disturbed at what they were seeing.
So the sheriff ordered a full search of the area. The property sat on about 2 acres of land and was surrounded by heavily wooded areas with a bayou and creeks. So they called for help from the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations. Time was not on their side as storms were coming and evidence could be lost.
Family members went to the left. My deputies went right. Next thing you know, as both my deputies and the family were trekking through this wooded area, the deputies heard a scream. They heard someone yelling, "It's a head. It's a head." And of course, everything changed at that point.
The welfare check started with one simple question. Where is Lana? Her car was there. Her keys were there. Her purse was there. Her phone was there. But Lana Brown Bradley was nowhere inside the house. Then deputies noticed the floor. It was wet, slippery, covered with the smell of chemicals. Somebody had been cleaning hard. And downstairs, behind a locked bathroom door, her youngest son was inside. Water was moving. The toilet was being used. And when that door opened, deputies saw something in that toilet that immediately told them this was no missing person case. Lana had not walked away. Someone had tried to erase her.
It was like they were frozen in time because nobody could believe what they were hearing.
They also found a suitcase, but their biggest find would be inside the house after the sheriff called in a plumber to remove the toilet.
I can say what was in the toilet, and it was her flesh.
Lana Brown Bradley was 62 years old, a retired educator in Natchez, Mississippi, and a woman who had spent decades pouring into children, classrooms, and her community. But inside her own home on Melanie Road, she was living with a fear that had grown too close. Her youngest son, Zachary Lavel Jackson Jr., was 29 years old, and family members had been worried about his mental state for years. They believed he was unstable, but he refused help. Then Lana made the decision no mother wants to make. She started the process to remove him from her home. She had gone to court the day before her death to begin that eviction process. Zachary had threatened her, and Lana's family already knew she had been afraid for her safety. This was not danger from the street. This was not a stranger watching from outside. The danger was inside the house. And that is what makes this case so terrifying. Because when you are afraid of someone outside, you lock your door. But when the person you fear already lives with you, there is no simple place to hide. On April 4th, 2026, Lana's eldest son could not reach her. That alone was strange. Lana was not the kind of person who vanished from contact without a reason. Calls were not being answered. Messages were not getting the usual response. That silence pushed the family into action. So deputies went to the home. At first, it was just a welfare check. But the moment they stepped inside, the house felt wrong. The air smelled like chemicals. The floor was slick. The cleaning was too obvious. Not calm cleaning. Not normal cleaning. This was frantic. Desperate. The kind of cleaning that makes your stomach tighten, because you know someone is not trying to make a house look nice. They are trying to make something disappear. Then Lana's belongings made it worse. Her car was there. Her keys were there. Her purse was there. Her phone was there. Everything that would usually leave with her was still inside that home. Except Lana. That is when the question changed. It was no longer, where did she go? It became, what happened to her in this house? Then deputies found Zachary. He was downstairs, locked inside a bathroom. And inside that bathroom, water was moving. That detail matters because this was not a man sitting quietly, confused, waiting to explain. Something was actively happening behind that door. When the bathroom opened, deputies saw a dark substance in the toilet that did not belong there. The scene was disturbing enough that the whole mood of the welfare check changed immediately. That toilet became one of the most horrifying pieces of the case. Because Lana's remains were not only hidden outside. Parts had been put into the plumbing, and a plumber had to be called to remove the toilet so investigators could recover evidence. Just sit with that. A mother was missing. Her family was worried. Deputies walked into her home, and her own son was found in the bathroom, where pieces of the truth were being pushed into the toilet like he could flush away what he had done. That is not just panic. That is concealment. That is someone trying to turn a murder into a disappearance. Once the bathroom raised the alarm, the search spread beyond the house. The property had to be checked. The wooded area had to be searched. Time mattered because bad weather was coming and evidence could be lost. Then came the scream. A family member found part of Lana's remains outside. Everything stopped. Because up until that moment, there may have still been one tiny piece of hope somewhere in the room. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she had been taken. Maybe somehow she was still alive. That scream killed the hope. Lana was gone. And what came next made the scene even harder to process.
He chopped her up in pieces. He dismembered her in a way where he knew that whoever came looking for her were going to have to do their due diligence, and they were going to have to go above and beyond to find her. And that's what we did. Mm-hmm. We found her. We found where he started to dispose of her at, and we had to get excavators out to get the rest of her.
So he spread her body parts over the property?
No. He had body parts in the suitcase, and then he flushed the rest down the toilet. He took his time and he dismembered her in a way where he can discard the pieces down the toilet.
So they were small pieces?
There were a lot. And I'm not trying to sensationalize what he did, but that's just what he did.
Some of her remains were found inside a suitcase. Other evidence was tied to the bathroom and plumbing. The house, the toilet, the suitcase, and the wooded property all became pieces of the same nightmare. This was the part that shook even seasoned officers, because the killing itself was already horrible. But the aftermath showed effort, cleaning the floor, using chemicals, locking himself in the bathroom, trying to dispose of remains through the toilet, moving other remains into a suitcase, leaving family and deputies to search piece by piece for a woman who had spent her life helping others. That is the part that makes people react. Not just that Lana was killed, but that after she was killed, someone tried to reduce her to evidence to be hidden, flushed, packed away, and erased. And behind all of this was the eviction.
He had threatened her the day before because she was looking to have him evicted from the home. So she was in the process of doing it and had just went to the court the day before to have him removed from the home.
Lana had reached her limit. She wanted peace in her own home. She wanted her adult son out. She went through the legal process to make that happen. But before that process could protect her, the danger inside the home caught up with her. The day before she died, Zachary threatened her because she was trying to remove him. Her family already feared his instability. And even with all that concern, no neighbor could see the danger building because the worst of it was happening behind closed doors. That is why this case is so painful. From outside, it may have looked like a quiet home. Inside, a mother was trying to survive her own son. The case came together through the house itself. The missing mother, the belongings left behind, the chemical smell, the slippery floor, the locked bathroom, the substance in the toilet, the suitcase, the remains on the property, the eviction conflict. the threat from the day before. Every piece pointed in one direction. Zachary was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, mayhem, and tampering with physical evidence. He later waived his preliminary hearing, and the case was moved toward a grand jury. A mental evaluation was also ordered as the case continued. But even before a final courtroom ending, the damage was already beyond words. Because Lana Brown Bradley was not just found dead. Her family had to learn that the person accused of doing this was her own son. And the people searching for her did not find her the way any family should find someone they love. They found a crime scene built around disposal, concealment, and betrayal. How afraid does a mother have to be before people understand she is in danger? Lana tried to set a boundary. She tried to remove the threat from her home. She took the legal step. But the system moved slower than the danger. And by the time her family called for help, deputies were no longer racing to protect Lana. They were searching for what was left of her. That is the cruelty of this case. A retired teacher, a mother, a grandmother, a woman who spent her life helping children. And in the end, the person accused of turning her home into a crime scene was one of her own. Because when danger comes from outside, you run home. But when danger is already inside the home, where do you run? But stay right there, because the next case is a different kind of betrayal. This time, the victim was only 17. She did not walk into danger because she was afraid. She walked into danger because she trusted family. And after she vanished, the cousin who knew exactly where she was did something that makes this case even colder. He dumped her body, then turned around and acted like he was just another worried person trying to help find her.
The 25-year-old became the center of the investigation into Zion Foster's disappearance. The teen reported missing in January of 2022, the search for her body lasting months. And 1 year ago this month, her step-cousin charged in her death.
And I wish I could take it back. I would have called the ambulance, called her mom, because her mom's so sweet. Her mom is so sweet. And I just knew. I wish I could take it back. Nobody been in the situation. At the very least, they'd be able to be like, okay, this happened, confirm this. And everybody has some sort of peace right now, you know? But I just didn't know what to do. It's not something, you know, like I said, in life, you try to mentally prep for a lot of situations. But when one that you just would never have even thought to happen just happens. And you're like, wow, immediately the first thing comes to your mind is everything about to lose, how it's about to affect your kids, your life in general. And then after that, how it's flipped when whoever, it's like play telephone and change many times. Facebook, everything, just a lot hitting me at once. So I had to just take time and try to get my thoughts together because I was on panic mode.
Jalen Brazier knew Zion Foster was never coming home. He knew because he was the last person with her. He knew because after she died, he did not call 911. He did not call her mother. He did not run for help. He put the 17-year-old girl's body in a trunk, drove her away, and dumped her in a trash bin like she meant nothing. Then, while Zion's mother was calling, crying, searching, and begging for answers, Jalen stepped back into the story like he was confused too. He texted people. He asked questions. He acted like he wanted Zion found. But the truth was already buried under his lies. Because by then, the trash bin had been emptied. Zion had been taken into the landfill system. And her mother was about to spend the next 2 years fighting for justice without even having her daughter's body to bury. That is why this case is not just about murder. It is about betrayal. It is about family trust being used as access. And it is about a cousin who threw Zion away, then pretended he didn't know where she was. Zion Foster was 17 years old. She lived in East Point, Michigan, and on January 4th, 2022, she was doing what many teenagers do when they're trying to grow up a little. She had a job. She had responsibility. She was working at Detroit Wing Company, and that night, she finished her shift around 10 p.m. After work, she came home. That part matters because everything about that night started normal. A teenage girl finished work. She got home. She spoke to her mother. Then she asked to go spend time with a cousin from her father's side of the family. That cousin was Jalen Brazier. He was not a stranger from the street. He was not someone she had just met online. He was family. Older than her, yes. He was 24, while Zion was only 17, but still family. And that family connection is what made the danger look safe. Zion's mother, Sierra Milton, trusted that her daughter was going to be with someone connected to the family. So Zion left around 10:45 p.m. She did not leave like someone planning to vanish. She carried a small purse. She had her phone. She did not even take a heavy coat, even though it was January in Michigan. That detail says a lot. Zion was not leaving for days. She was not running away. She was not packing up her life. She was supposed to come back home. Jalen picked her up and took her to his Detroit home. His girlfriend was at work. Zion was alone with him. For a while, her mother still had no reason to panic. Then at 12:59 a.m., Zion sent the text. OMW. That was the last piece of normal communication. Sierra waited. 20 minutes passed. Zion did not come home. More time passed. Still no Zion. Her phone went quiet. The same daughter who had just said she was on her way was suddenly unreachable. And any parent knows that kind of fear does not hit all at once. It creeps in. At first, you try to explain it. Maybe she stopped somewhere. Maybe the ride took longer. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she is about to walk in. Then the explanations start falling apart. Because Zion was not coming. By the next day, Sierra was filing missing person reports with both East Point Police and Detroit Police. She knew her daughter. Something was wrong. And the person who knew the most was Jalen. Jalen would later give his version of that night. He claimed he and Zion were together at his home. He claimed they used drugs. He claimed Zion suddenly stopped breathing and died unexpectedly. But the real horror is not only in what he claimed happened, is in what he did next. Because if a 17-year-old girl suddenly stops breathing in your home, there is only one normal reaction. Call 911. Scream for help. Call her mother. Run outside. Try to save her. Do anything except hide it. Jalen did not do that. He did not report Zion's death. He did not bring her home. He did not let her mother know her daughter was gone. He put Zion's body in a car trunk. Then, after midnight, he drove to Highland Park and left her body in a dumpster. That is where this case turns from tragic to cruel. Because Zion's mother was waiting for her child to come home. Her family was about to start searching. Police would soon be called. But Zion had already been moved from a home into a vehicle and then into the trash system. A 17-year-old girl who had just finished work, who had just texted who trusted her cousin enough to leave home with him, was placed in a dumpster like her life meant nothing. And once that dumpster was collected, the search became even more painful. Her body was believed to have been taken to Pine Tree Acres landfill in Macomb County. That meant Zion's family was no longer only fighting time. They were fighting garbage trucks, compactors, landfill movement, tons of waste. And the longer Jalen lied, the harder it became to find her. That is the part that makes this case so hard to sit with. Zion's mother did not even get the dignity of knowing where her child was. She had to imagine her daughter somewhere inside a landfill because the person who picked her up chose disposal over truth. After Zion disappeared, Jalen did not immediately tell the truth. He did something colder. He acted like he was part of the concern. He exchanged messages. He asked questions. He gave the appearance of someone connected to the search. He even communicated with Zion's mother and Zion's boyfriend after she vanished. But behind all that, he already knew Zion had been with him. He knew she had died. He knew he had moved her body. He knew he had left her in a dumpster. So every moment he failed to tell the truth stole more time from the search. That matters because missing person cases depend on time. The first hours are precious. Where was she last seen? Who was she with? What direction did she go? What vehicle was she in? What location needs to be searched first? Jalen had answers, but he did not give them when they mattered most. On January 19, 2022, he became a person of interest. He later turned himself in for questioning. At first, the case did not immediately become a murder charge. He was charged with lying to police, and he served time for that while Zion's family still had no body and no full answer. Then came the landfill search. Search teams went to Pine Tree Acres landfill and began the kind of work no family should ever have to imagine. They searched through massive amounts of trash, trying to recover Zion. But she was never found. That failure was not from lack of effort. It was from the cruelty of the disposal. Once a body enters the trash system, everything becomes harder. The location shifts. Waste gets moved. Evidence breaks down. Time works against the victim. And Jalen's delay made that worse. But even without Zion's body, the case kept building. His own actions kept speaking. He admitted he disposed of Zion's body. His story about a sudden death did not explain why he hid her. His behavior after she disappeared did not look like innocence. His phone searches became part of the case, searches connected to trash truck compactors and crime-solving techniques. That detail is important because it shows what his mind was focused on after Zion disappeared. Not saving her, not telling the truth, not comforting her mother. He was looking at the mechanics of disposal and detection. Then there was the relationship angle. Zion was 17. Jalen was 24. He was family. And messages presented during the trial raised a disturbing question about whether he had been grooming her toward an inappropriate relationship. That made the betrayal even deeper. Because this was not only about a cousin hiding a death. It was about an adult relative who had access to a teenage girl through family trust. The prosecution's theory was that something happened that night between Jalen and Zion, that Zion resisted, and that she ended up dead. Without Zion's body, there could not be a full autopsy to tell every detail of her final moments. But the case did not rest on one missing piece. It rested on everything around it. The late-night pickup, the final text, the sudden silence, the body in the trunk, the dumpster, the landfill, the lies, the searches, the messages, the refusal to tell Zion's mother the truth while time still mattered. By June 2023, more than a year after Zion vanished, Jalen was charged with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Now the case was no longer only about a missing girl. It was about proving murder without her body. Jalen Brazier's trial opened in May 2024. Zion had been gone for more than 2 years. 2 years without a body. 2 years without a burial. 2 years of her mother living with the same question every day. What really happened to my daughter? The defense tried to frame Jalen as someone who panicked after Zion died unexpectedly. They wanted the jury to believe he made terrible choices after a sudden death, but that he did not kill her. But the state put the pieces in order. Zion leaves work. Zion goes home. Zion leaves with Jalen. Zion texts her mother, OMW. Zion never arrives. Jalen does not call for help. Jalen puts her body in a trunk. Jalen leaves her in a dumpster. Jalen lies. Jalen searches things connected to trash compactors and solving crimes. Zion is never found. The jury did not need days. They did not even need hours and hours. They deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty of second-degree murder. Guilty of tampering with evidence. Then came sentencing. Jalen received 38 to 90 years for second-degree murder, plus another 5 to 10 years for tampering with evidence. Those sentences were ordered to run consecutively, meaning the maximum reached 100 years. But no sentence could fix the deepest wound, because Sierra Milton still did not have Zion. In court, she spoke as a mother whose firstborn and best friend had been taken from her. And that is where this case lands hardest. The justice system could sentence Jalen. The jury could call him guilty. The judge could add the years. But none of that could undo the one choice that made this case so cruel. He did not bring Zion home. Zion Foster left her house with trust. She texted her mother that she was on her way. Then she disappeared into a lie, a trunk, a dumpster, and a landfill. And even after the verdict, even after the sentence, even after the courtroom finally said who was responsible, her family was still left with the cruelest truth of all. Justice came. But Zion never came home. Zion Foster's case was already hard to accept because her cousin knew where she was, dumped her body, then acted like he was just another worried person trying to help. But don't click away yet, because the final case in this video is the one that makes people ask how something this dark could happen inside a mother's own world. In Zion's case, a family member betrayed a teenage girl's trust. But in this next case, the person now accused was not a cousin, not a stranger, not someone outside the home. It was their mother. And the discovery did not begin with a 911 confession. It began with a man walking his dog and the dog pulling toward a half-buried suitcase in a Cleveland field.
Of what was in the suitcase.
Okay, so you can show me right then. How you doing, sir?
I'm a little shaken up right now.
Understood.
If you go, you can see the case from back here. It's all the way straight to the back.
Close to that sign?
Yeah, see the little black
Straight ahead in front of me? Okay.
Straight,
it's
yeah.
a suitcase?
It's a suitcase. I've been walking past it for about a week now because I take my dog. I stay right here. I take my dog. I usually walk her through there and then come around here.
Okay.
And for the last week, she's been stuck. It was like a mound of dirt. She's been stopped and sniffing like a little too long.
Okay.
And today I was like, well, I'm going to take it. I hope it's not what I'm...
Right.
And it was halfway buried. It's about this thick. It's about halfway buried. I pulled it up unzipped it. I couldn't really see, and I opened it up and hid.
Buried under the dirt, it was?
Yeah, halfway.
Okay.
You can see a little part of it sticking out.
And you said you noticed it for about a week already?
Yeah, it's been sitting over there. It's like somebody buried it or tried to bury it. And like I said, I walked my dog over there, and she keeps stopping it. She sniff a little too long.
Right.
You know, she sniffs stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Right.
I'm not going to with it. And today I was just like, let me see what that really is.
Okay.
So it's back there.
All right,
I pulled it up so it's kind of standing up, and it stinks like hell.
Okay. You're right here at 670?
Yeah.
What was your name, sir?
Philip.
Philip? Okay. I'm going to check it out. I'll be with you. Thank you.
The dog would not leave the mound alone. That was the first sign. A man was walking near East 162nd Street and Midland Avenue in Cleveland when his dog became fixed on something in the ground. At first, it may have looked like trash. A suitcase, partly buried, out of place. But when that suitcase was opened, a normal walk turned into the beginning of a double homicide investigation. Then police searched the area and found a second suitcase nearby. 2 shallow graves, 2 children, 2 sisters. And within days, the person arrested was not some stranger hiding in the neighborhood. It was their own mother, Aaliyah Henderson. This case begins in Cleveland, Ohio, on March 2nd, 2026. A man is out walking his dog near a field around East 162nd Street and Midland Avenue, near Gin Academy. Nothing about that moment should have become a national headline. It was the kind of ordinary walk people take every day. A dog sniffing around, a person following behind, the city moving around them. Then the dog noticed something. A suitcase, partly buried in a shallow grave. That one discovery cracked the entire case open. Police came to the scene. The first suitcase held the remains of a child. Then the area was searched more carefully, and a second shallow grave was found close by. Inside that second suitcase was another child.
Police officer then goes back to his cruiser, drives around to the other side of the park, and that's when he gets out and he makes his way to the suitcase to see for himself.
I got you.
Hey, are you still inside the district? Okay. I was going to have you grab my flashlight, but that's all right. When you get up here, if you go down 162, like I went upstairs at 162, you can just pull in this parking lot for this Gin Academy, and you'll see me back here. So I haven't opened it yet. The dude I talked to, the caller, he said that there was this suitcase partially like buried in the ground that he said he's been noticing for like a week, and his dog keeps trying to get to it. So he said that he pulled it out today and to see what was in there because it was kind of heavy, and he noticed like a head and he just left it and called the police. So I'll just wait till you guys get here before I open it. All right. Yeah, just come down towards like Midland, and I mean, as soon as you get to like the last drive for the school, you'll just pull in there. I'm in the back. All right. You're gonna have to look and see. I mean, it's like partially buried. He said it was sticking out for like a week. He finally decided to open it up. I just want to see. You flash your light on. I just want to see if there's any blood or anything on it. No? Yeah. You on?
Yeah, I forgot.
That is when the horror became bigger than one victim. 2 little girls had been left there. Not in a home. Not in a bed. Not in a place where family could say goodbye. In suitcases. Buried shallow enough for a dog to find. DNA testing later identified them as 10-year-old Amore Wilson and 8-year-old Mila Chapman. They were half-sisters. Same mother. Different fathers. 2 children whose names should have been attached to school birthdays, toys, family pictures, little arguments, little dreams, not a crime scene in a Cleveland field. And then came the part that made the case even harder to process. Their mother, Aaliyah Henderson, was arrested. Aaliyah was 28 years old. She had 3 children. Amore and Mila were gone. A younger 6-year-old child was found alive when police arrested her and was placed into child welfare custody. That surviving child changes the whole emotional weight of the case. Because this was not only about what happened to Amore and Mila. It was also about the child who was still alive in the middle of whatever had been happening around that home. And the question sitting over everything was simple. How did 2 children disappear from life so completely that they were only found because a dog noticed a suitcase in the dirt? The darkest part of Amore and Mila's case is not only that they were killed, is how they were found. These were not children discovered in a bedroom where someone called for help. They were not found after a frantic 911 call from a panicked parent. They were found in a field, inside suitcases, buried in shallow graves. That means somebody had time after the deaths. Time to place them inside luggage. Time to move them. Time to dig. Time to cover them with dirt. Time to walk away and leave 2 little girls hidden in the ground like the world was never supposed to know where they went. And that is the part that makes this case feel so cold. Because Amore was 10 years old. Mila was 8. They were sisters. They were children. They had names, fathers, family, birthdays, school days, favorite things, little habits, and lives that were supposed to keep unfolding. But the way they were discovered tells you this was not just a killing. It was concealment. It was disposal. It was an attempt to bury the truth with them. And it gets even darker when you remember who now stands accused. Their own mother. The one person they should have been able to run to first. The one person who should have noticed if they were scared, hungry, sick, missing, or in danger. Instead, the case moved toward Aaliyah Henderson, the woman who gave birth to both girls. So when police found those suitcases, they were not just looking at a crime scene. They were looking at a betrayal of the deepest kind. 2 children did not vanish into thin air. Somebody removed them from the world, placed them where no child should ever be placed, and left them buried shallow enough for a dog to uncover what adults had failed to stop. And even their names had to be returned through DNA. That detail alone tells you how far this had gone. Their families were not called to a hospital. They were not told the girls had been found safe. They had to learn that Amore and Mila were the 2 children in those suitcases. That is the kind of discovery that destroys people. Because before the court dates, before the charges, before the bond hearing, before anyone could argue guilt or innocence, the truth was already sitting in that field. 2 little girls were dead. 2 suitcases were in the ground. And their mother was about to become the center of the case. Aaliyah Henderson's life had warning signs long before the girls were found. When she was younger, her mother described a sharp change in her behavior. She had once been a strong student, the kind of teenager with good grades and promise, but then things shifted. She became violent, got into fights, and was expelled from school. That kind of change does not always predict violence later, but it tells us something was wrong early. Then came more instability. As a teenager, Aaliyah was reported missing after leaving home and cutting contact. She blocked family members online. She later reported being attacked on a bus. Then she became a mother young. Amore was born when Aaliyah was still a teenager. Mila came later, when Aaliyah was still only 19. Now, none of that excuses what happened. Teen motherhood is hard, but most young mothers do not harm their children. Mental health struggles are real, but most people struggling with mental health do not become killers. Trauma can explain pressure, but it does not erase responsibility. What it does show is that there may have been cracks in the story for years: instability, isolation, conflict, and warning signs that never turned into enough protection for the children. And that is where the case becomes frustrating. Because when children die like this, people always start looking backward. Who saw them last? Were they in school? Was anyone checking? Did family members know where they were? Did the fathers have access? Did child services receive complaints? Were there signs the girls were in danger? Mila's father, Deshaun Chapman, publicly said he had been trying to find and get custody of his daughter for years. He said he had not seen her in a long time and felt this could have been prevented. That detail is painful because it shows this was not just one family grieving after the fact. There were people who wanted those girls safe before they were found in that field. And still, Amore and Mila ended up gone. Once the 2 suitcases were found, the case moved fast. At first, the children had to be identified. That alone tells you how grim the discovery was. Police could not simply call a family member and say, "Is this your child?" DNA testing had to confirm who the girls were and confirm their relationship as half-sisters. Then the investigation turned toward their mother. Aaliyah Henderson was arrested on March 4th, 2 days after the discovery. When police arrested her at her home, a 6-year-old child was found alive. That child was taken into protective custody. That moment must have felt chilling for investigators. 2 children already found dead. Another child still alive. A mother being taken into custody. And an entire community trying to understand how 2 girls could be missing from everyday life until a dog found them in the ground. Aaliyah was first charged with aggravated murder. Then the charges grew. A Cuyahoga County grand jury returned a larger indictment: aggravated murder, kidnapping, child endangering, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of a corpse. Those charges tell a story even before trial. Aggravated murder and murder speak to the deaths. Kidnapping charges suggest prosecutors believe the girls were restrained or unlawfully held in the course of what happened. Child endangering speaks to the risk and harm surrounding the children. Tampering with evidence points toward concealment. Gross abuse of a corpse points toward what was done after death. This was no small case. This was a full legal response to a scene that shocked Cleveland. At a March court appearance, bond was set at $2 million. Later court coverage showed Aaliyah pleaded not guilty while the case continued moving through Cuyahoga County courts. And because the case is still ongoing, there is no final conviction yet. No sentencing. No courtroom ending where a judge gives the final word. But the discovery itself already became the kind of moment that people could not forget. Because this case did not start with a missing poster that slowly faded. It started with 2 suitcases in the ground. The strongest courtroom moment so far came from the fathers. Amore's father and Mila's father were not silent. They showed up with grief, anger, and the kind of pain that does not stay polite just because a courtroom asks it to. They wanted Aaliyah to remain behind bars. They described the loss as a permanent scar. And they were not only mourning children. They were mourning the fact that the children were taken by the very person who should have protected them. Mila's father spoke publicly about his fight to see his daughter, his efforts to get custody, and the devastating reality that he learned she had been living close to where her body was found. That is the part that cuts deep. Imagine fighting to find your child, trying to get help, trying to get access, trying to prove something is wrong. Then one day, you do not get a call saying she has been found safe. You get the call no parent should ever receive. And not only is your child gone, she was found in a suitcase. That kind of news does not just break a parent. It rewrites their whole life. For Amore and Mila's families, the court process is still not over. There is still no final answer on everything that happened before the girls died. The medical examiner still had not released the full cause of death publicly. The trial has not delivered a final verdict. But the facts already known are enough to leave people shaken. 2 sisters. 2 suitcases, 2 shallow graves, a mother accused, a surviving child removed from home, a community left asking how these girls could disappear from protection so completely. 3 cases, 3 different kinds of betrayal. Lana Brown Bradley was trying to remove danger from her own home, but before that protection could fully arrive, her house became the crime scene. Zion Foster trusted a cousin, sent her mother and never came home, while the person who knew the truth pretended to be part of the search. And Amore Wilson and Mila Chapman were 2 little girls whose bodies were found in suitcases, with their own mother now facing the charges. What connects these cases is not just violence. Is trust being destroyed. A mother trusting her home. A teenager trusting family. Two children trusting the person who was supposed to protect them. And that is what makes these stories so painful, because none of these victims were looking for danger in the places where danger found them. So I want to ask you this honestly. Which of these cases disturbed you the most? Was it Lana's case, because she had already tried to remove the danger? Was it Zion's case, because Jalen dumped her body and acted like he knew nothing? Or was it Amore and Mila's case, because two children were found buried in suitcases and the person accused was their mother? Drop your answer in the comments, because I want to know which one stayed with you the most and why. And if this video held your attention, hit the like button. Share it with someone who follows real true crime stories. And subscribe to Crime Scene Exposed for more disturbing cases, courtroom moments, and stories that show how quickly trust can turn into tragedy. Before you go, answer this. Which case made you the angriest, and what warning sign do you think people missed?